Yeah, that's life. And like you said, it's not all peaches and cream and rainbows and
That's how it
sunshines.
is.
You know,
No, it's not.
we want it to be, but again, we're here to develop our soul.
Trust in the journey. Let your spirit soar. With augmented teachings, we'll open the door.
So today's topic on Augmented Teachings is, what is our earthly job and are we doing it? And this spurred on because of an incident that I had a couple days ago. Okay. Sometimes I like to do rideshare, right? Mm-hmm. For fun, talk to people and engage and get perspectives that are different than my own. And one guy asked me, he goes, do you ever have bad passengers? And I'm like, yes, it depends on what they're bringing into the car. Because I was already joking with the guy, right? Having a good time. That's why he felt easy, calm enough to where he saw I had a receptive energy. And that's why he asked me to begin with. And I said, yeah, it depends what they bring in the car. I said, every time I've had a bad passenger, it was usually because they were hyped up. They've been watching or listening to right-wing media just before they got in the car. And right-wing media doesn't attack the action, it attacks the person. So we'll get into the vehicle and they'll be venting about libs, Dems, Biden, Pelosi, all the talking points are just hitting them, and that brings the whole vibration down. And then I have to break down, especially if it's a long ride, and sometimes it sucks. It's a long ride. It's like a 30-minute, 40-minute ride. I'm like, oh my God, okay, how am I going to break this down? And I break down, we have 2 jobs on this planet, and watching Fox News is not one of them. One of them is for our soul, and that is to work the puzzle of unconditional love. The second purpose of life is to create wonderful experiences, because what you create here, you take back home to relive. And if you want to go ahead and do all those things and get hopped up on hate, fear, judgment, ego, self-righteousness, you can. But when you go back home, you have nothing left. You have nothing to watch, nothing to relive. You have garbage. You have garbage experiences. And then when you start having those and you start watching your past life review, which everybody goes through, no matter who you pray to, you go through your past life review and you start realizing that you bring down not only yourself, your own energy, you bring down the experiences of everybody you come in contact with. And you realize, I watched right-wing media for 20 years straight before they kicked the bucket. So I'm just going to have this for the next 20 years? Yes, that's what you brought back home. Our job is to bring back experiences. God is a creator. We are the experiencer. Don't bring home garbage. Bring home something worthy of bringing back home. We have a little group here, right? And we call it Third Thursday. And every third Thursday, a group of friends comes together and we create unique experiences. Yeah. Unique experiences that you wouldn't normally have, but with each other, supporting each other to do it, we all end up doing it, right? Yeah. So this last week, you guys were playing sound bowls in the pool, right? So you can feel the vibrations go through your whole body. Yeah. Right? Different experiences.
Such
and I was playing the drums.
Great experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is something that you get to relive over, something worthy. You weren't watching left or right. We were having experiences with friends and camaraderie.
Nobody was in judgment and fear. There was no competition. We were all just enjoying each other's energy, company, vibrations, having a beautiful experience of oneness, right?
Right. So I explained to the guy that, yes, it all depends on what you bring into this car, but also what you bring into the world, into your world.
Right, what you create for yourself.
When you go back home, you want to have something beautiful, not only as a gift to yourself, but as a gift to Source itself. And not only does right-wing media hurt your everyday creation of wonderful experiences, it hurts your soul development. You may add lifetimes on the end of your soul's journey because you flunked 5th grade. You kept flunking 5th grade again and again and again. So you go to school 13, 14. Your soul's journey is going to be longer because you went backwards. Instead of learning unconditional love, you move the opposite direction. And it slows your progress so you're gonna have to be more times here to make that up.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with that. And people, or the challenge, I'll say people, but including me, are gonna say, well, how do you just learn how to love? Mm-hmm. Right? How do you do that? Because it's not just the media, it's not just it's not just the MAGA type of hatred, right? Hate exists beyond politics.
Yes.
There are hate between the same cultures, the same community, right? Social, economic play a big difference in it. There are people with money in Mexico that treat other Mexicans horribly because of their financial status, right? Social, economic. So the hate is always fear-based. So how in this world we're in, and it's not just, it's coming to my mind, but it's in any culture, right, that exists. Before there was the myth of the bad black man or brown man, the Europeans were killing each other, white people killing white people, and they weren't saying we're going to fight this white guy. They're saying we're going to kill the French, we're going to kill the Germans, we're going to kill the English, we're going to, right, whoever occupied whatever they wanted. And then as they came over, that hate, they develop visually through color and race, hate there, right? And the seeds of that in the founding of the country, it's not just politics where those things exist. It is in the corners of every community. If you have a Irish, and only Irish live there, and only the Jewish people live there. The blue lines and all the things that they have, and you can't live in a certain area just within their own culture, right? Those things exist everywhere. The Masons in Washington and the way they live and own land and then treat other people that are not in that society different it's the division and hate. And how do you go, well, cool, I'm going to treat everyone. This is the world that exists. And so I'm just going to learn how to treat everybody with love. Right. I'll just step out tomorrow and blow kisses and sunshine at everybody. Right. So it's a discipline. It is a work. And we cannot treat people true love unless we love ourselves truly, right? Because if we do that type of love without healing ourselves first, right? That type of love is built on what we think love is, what we think that person needs. We have expectations and things that are more ego-driven than it is serving-driven. Serving the other person, love. Right? It's conditional love. And then when those things collapse, that love goes away or is diminished because it was not maybe best intentions at times, but it was not true reflection of love, right? But when you start healing from within, when you start working on yourself and you start doing your earthly job, right, to love, you love yourself first, and then that is what reflects that vibration. People go, man, you are different. You seem different. Right. You're smiling. You close friends, I thought you were depressed or you went through that divorce, or you had that death, right? But you somehow had the courage and willingness to acknowledge that you were in that, and then you did something about it. And when you did something about it, that vibration increased. Another way to say it is we go, man, I feel good, right? Maybe you don't understand all the things of it yet, right? Because you're at the early development stages. Yeah. So when we think to ourselves, man, I feel good because of that action. Right. That is internally, that is our vibration increasing through love, through loving ourselves. And the more we do that and we develop the modalities, right? We have the insights and the teachings and the philosophy, and then we have the modalities with Brandy and with the House of Frog, and we build that person from within. And I've seen it where people come to my house and they're like, man, what we talk about here, I took over here, and now this person, right? We love ourselves first, it radiates. And then that is how we love other people, because that vibration that we felt internally starts being external. And then people just come into your path.
Exactly.
Right? Because
now you're vibrating at a different frequency.
Because you're doing the right thing.
Right.
That loving thing.
Right.
Something like
that whole loving thing.
Sorry, I'm taking all the mic time.
No, you're not. You're not. It's great, and that's exactly the perfect example of how we are doing our earthly job. Because what are we doing when we're doing our breath work and we're doing our personal development and our soul development work? Right. We're creating those experiences. We're doing our earthly job.
Right. Now it reminds me of that movie Pollyanna, right, from Disney. If you look for the bad in others, you'll surely find it, right? If the United States was rid of all brown people, the white people just start fighting with each other for different reasons.
There'd be some other hate.
There's this Catholic, Protestant, or you have dark hair and we have light hair.
Right.
They would continue because you're still looking for the bad in others, and it'll be more subtle. There's no brown people now, right? So it'll just be more subtle. What the things you're looking for. But the problem is when you look for the bad in yourself, you look for the bad in others. You look for the good in yourself, you look for the good in others. I learned that the hard way. I had social anxiety really bad. And I remember I would live in harsh judgment because the way I was raised, I would always judge people very harshly. And then I had a hard time going in social situations because I started mind reading that they were judging me the same way. So I stopped. I literally started looking for the good in other people, and I started coming out of my shell. So the first thing I did is, the first time I went to karaoke and I sang myself, I had to go there and watch a couple times and look for the good in everything that person did. Even if they weren't that good, I'd still try to find at least 2 things they did well, right? And then after a while, I stopped having that negative mind reading. And then I started being able to live life and come out of my shell a lot more than I had previously. And then from there, it just kept going and going and going. And I realized I was my own worst enemy. When you learn to love yourself and love your actions and love your wins and failures, then you can start doing that with other people, just like you said.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And that leads me to my question, Todd, is as a society, as a society in America right now, are we doing our earthly job?
Some
as
are.
A collective.
Some are. And that's the problem is some people are awakening and they're learning acceptance and compassion and putting that above the constraints of man. So there's a law that this person shouldn't be here, but this person will suffer if they're removed. Some people are saying, you know what? I'm going to side and protect that person from suffering. And other people will say, no, I will take the law to make that person suffer. And I don't want to change the law to help that person not suffer. Just as people say, well, they broke the law. But a politician could come around and give legislation so they wouldn't have to suffer. Would you be okay with that? Well, no, they still shouldn't be here. And that's the problem. There's biases. There's prejudices.
Right.
And I don't get back to what you were saying. I can't tell what a person does, but I can sense. I can sense energy. From a Trumper a mile away. They have a unique anger to them, and I'm like, that's that Trumper. I can just feel it, because they don't have a compassion, a love, an understanding. They have how resting bitch face looks? They have that on the inside. I can feel that.
You can see that energy within them, not necessarily like what they do or their actions, but you can feel what they're vibrating at. Right. And what they're emitting. And
I'm like, don't go near that person. And there's been several people I'm like, I can't go near that person. That person has a hatred of self and surroundings.
And I do want to say we have encountered that with people that did not support Trump.
True.
So I do need to add that
Yes.
it's not just one side, black or white,
True.
up or down. There are other people who claim to be on other sides and claim to be certain, certain ways of thinking and acting,
Right.
but their energy tells a totally different story. And you spoke about that in a previous episode of you can't just put on the music and put on the smile and think that you're all good, because people can still feel that energy. And that's
Right.
what you're saying, regardless truly of what your political side is.
Right, and I notice it when it comes to the Trump side, it's pretty universal. But there's still
That's really a
Christians
lot.
that have rejected Trump, and they feel
Yeah.
different. They
Yeah.
feel different. And there's people that are spiritual have rejected Trump and are not. They don't have good energy, and I'm like, they still live in that harsh judgment
Right.
mentality, and I'm like,
Right.
wait a second, we got to pull off this. We got to pull off this energy because it's too much. It's too prickly.
For me,
It's
I
inverted.
think it takes me back to saying where hate, maybe people are not intentionally hating. Maybe they just have these prejudices. Like, I just don't like those people, or just right, but they're not taking action against them, right? So, the verbiage, whatever, but it's not just politics. It's anything, right? It could be based on because someone who traumatized you was a certain race, or was a male, or was a female, right?
Correct.
And now you have these prejudices. But I think whatever side of the issues you're on, or if you're on religious or spirituality, but you're not living that life, I think everything goes back to that's what you still have to go into that self-development and self-love.
Right.
Exactly.
Right? Because those things will diminish, will more and more become less and less the more you do that.
Right.
So even the person with the intentions, if I want to change, but not seeing the results, right? It's like going to the gym, man. It's like you got to be there for a minute before something, right?
Right.
You could give it your best effort for a couple of weeks, but your expectations are going to fail. You got to put in. It takes a little time.
It's that dedicated effort, no
Right?
matter what it is that you're trying to overcome, or whether it's a challenge, or you're trying to, get better at something, or perfect or master a skill or something. We have to continue to put that dedicated effort, and it's not just in the earthly things, but it's in our soul development.
Right. And there's a lot of people that are in situations they don't have that prickly energy. They have loving energy within them, but they're still stuck in a dour situation, a situation that is downtrodden. And a lot of times they're there and they don't realize why they're there. They don't want to be there. And I always tell people the easiest way out so you can be having picnics and flying kites or hanging out doing sound bowls in a pool is to ask one question. Ask one question first. And that question is, ask your guardian angels, ask Jesus, ask God, whoever you want. What do I have to learn in this situation so I can get out of it? What's my lesson? Because there's no mistakes. Source doesn't make mistakes. You're in the situation for a reason. Show me what I have to learn so I can get out of this situation. Do I have to learn compassion? Do I have to learn humility? Do I have to learn honesty? What do I have to learn to get out of this situation? And then you're gone.
To develop your soul,
Yes,
right?
so I have to develop my soul. And then before
Not about
you
the
know
other
prolong
people.
it.
once
Exactly.
that lesson's learned, it could be 4 years, it'll be 4 months. It's up to you, right?
Right.
Okay, I think I have to learn this. I want to start doing it this way. Boom, and then it breaks. That cycle breaks.
Yeah.
That lesson's learned. That chapter's over, and you can start moving on to other chapters, hopefully with greener pastures.
And that's taking that dedicated effort, taking that, that active participation
Right.
in our soul's journey.
Right.
And that takes that acceptance, that willingness, and engagement in the process.
That's absolutely true. And I know we talk about, we name politics or politicians and things like that. But, my focus, Cinnamon's focus, House of Frog is we don't care what you believe in. We don't care who you follow. I mean, we care, right? You can be some psychopath, but not causing harm. We don't care your belief systems, right? Even if they are in a negative way, or the things you believe in, or the group thing you believe in harms other people. We don't see it as, well, that person is this and this person is that. We say it as that person needs some soul development. That person needs to be loved. And the way they're going to do that is we're going to reflect that to them. And we create those experiences at our place.
Open that up for that.
On a regular basis.
Yeah.
Right? And we invite people of all sorts, colors, shapes, doesn't matter. Right?
Backgrounds,
and
everything.
makes no difference. And we just try to create a safe, fun environment for them. And for even if it's a short period, increases the vibration. And I'm telling you, everybody comes back. So it's
because
good.
you guys both create that welcoming environment where there's no judgment. You know, if we're doing breath work, if we're meditating, if we're, doing a sound bath or an ice bath or anything, whatever, or a sweat lodge or whatever we're doing, right? Which, speaking of that, you guys do, your fire and ice ceremonies about once a month, and those are all part of that soul development. But again, that's taking that active participation in our life. And that means we're doing our job, because part of it is to create a great experience for ourselves and our souls, while also not creating harm for other people by creating that judgment. How can somebody say, well, I'm going to work on myself and I'm going to help you work on yourself, but I'm going to judge you throughout the whole process.
Yes.
And then we're going to create more negative karma for both of us.
Right.
We're not truly developing in a positive, there's potentials for that, right? We talked about that. The potentials. Are there always potentials? Yeah, because we live in a cause and effect universe. And what we do on this side has equal effect to the other side, because that's our soul development. We can never escape it.
Right. And with all our friendships at House of Frog, Augmented Teachings, our group, our circles, they're all nurtured.
Yes.
Right? So no one gets salty. I mean, people get a little salty, but we end with hugs and stuff.
It's okay, because that's life. And like you said, it's not all peaches and cream and rainbows and sunshines. We want it to be, but again, we're here to develop our soul.
Right.
And like you said, do we want Jesus to take away our sins? No. Do we want to live a life without conflict?
No.
I mean, maybe our ego says yeah,
Right.
but then our soul says no, because then we're going to come back and have to go through those challenges and conflicts again. Let's get back to our job of, creating peaceful harmony for ourselves and others.
And the whole point is you really have to practice being open-minded. There's two sides to every story. Some people are willing to listen to both sides. And I've had people in my car been like totally one set, one way. And I'm like, okay, look this up and look this up and tell me what you found. And they're like, how come I didn't know this before? Because I didn't tell you. They didn't tell you the other side.
Misinformed.
Now, how do you feel? Because I feel more balanced. I don't feel so angry about it. Exactly. So we have to find people that are willing to open up and look at both sides and not go straight to name calling when they feel like there's information that's countering what they're thinking. And that's the hard part, is some people are very far down that road and they may not open up this lifetime. And we have to be okay. Like the book I wrote, it's not for everyone.
Right.
It's not for people that have gone down that road to where these people are bad, these people are bad, and you can't tell me anything else.
They're not going to be open to that
they're
information.
Not be open to it. And I understand. And I just walk away. No name calling, no anger, just walk away. But when people are open-minded, that's when you can actually start making movement. Yeah. That's when you can actually start expressing both sides and changing the angle in which they look at something. Yeah. I always bring up the LGBTQ. Do you realize your soul doesn't stay in one gender? It does. I never thought of it. Now you do. Now the seed's planted. Now they're like, not so judgmental. They're like, you're going to have to go through it too. Whatever gender you like right now, you may like it next lifetime, and you may not be in the same vessel of gender, that is. So,
and the whole part of it is staying open, staying open to new ways of thinking, new ideas, new understandings. And we can't do that if we're so closed off.
Right.
You freedom to believe what you want.
Right.
Accept whatever truth you want. Right. But you are really enslaving. People enslave themselves when they say, this is what I believe and there's no other possibility. Keep this radio station open at the top.
Exactly.
And it's like a buffet, right? You take what's good and you leave the rest.
All right.
And you go.
And how do you know which one's right? And it's easy. How do you know which one's right?
Well, it feels
because
good.
I exactly, that's it. If this thought process makes you feel love and compassion and understanding, and this one makes you feel judgment and hatred, then that's the wrong one. And people don't realize this isn't the correct way. This is, if there's an explanation for both, well, the Bible says this, but the Bible also says that. This one is compassionate and this one's judgmental. It's the compassionate one, because on this side of the veil, there is no such thing as fear, judgment, and punishment, right? You don't have to fear God. You have to fear your own actions.
Only the energy we bring over there.
We bring back home. That's what you have to fear. The decisions you made here.
Right.
Because they have effects. They bring down your vibration. And a lot of people don't realize is that when you go back home, the ones that have the hardest time are the ones that live in harsh judgment of others, because they're not in alignment with love. And now they just get plunged into an ice bath, you know what I'm saying, of God's love. They're like, oh, I don't like this. And they've actually, when they've gone, it's funny because with my NDE research, you know, some of the hardcore Christians have the hardest time in heaven because of their judgments and fears and hatred towards certain groups, that their soul has been pushed down. And when they get to heaven, it's so much love. They've actually asked their guardian angels to slow down because God's love is too intense for them. While souls that have already been loving and compassionate, they're already used to the water.
Right.
Yes.
They're diving in the pool.
Right. It's nice in an 80, 85 degree pool. You know what I'm saying? So
It's not so harsh.
and that's the things people don't realize is that, wait, we all go to heaven? Yes. We're here to bring our experiences back, and God does not dismiss our experiences because we became this religion or that religion. Simple as that.
God isn't a thing that can judge.
Right. It has
God is an energy source.
Exactly. God isn't a man with magical powers. God is the magic itself.
Right.
All right.
So with all that being said, is there anything that you guys want to share before we wrap up this episode for today?
Our job, what is our earthly job? It's to bring back wonderful experiences. And our lives, our whole life is a playback book that we can use anytime we want to relive everything through our whole life. And we get to experience it as many times as we want. You want more good than bad. So remember that every day. What can I do to make better experiences, not worse ones? Every day have the intent. What can I do to make this day better? So not just for me, but for everybody I interact with.
Exactly.
And then it just snowballs and gets better and better and better.
And that is such a beautiful, beautiful mindset to have at the beginning of our day, throughout our day, taking those little mindful moments to reset and ask ourselves, what is this moment asking of me? How can I either make it better? What can I do to improve? How about you, Robert?
That's all it is, right? And there's no perfect path.
No.
We're gonna develop that self-love. We're gonna, at every level of that development, that's the level of love we'll be sharing with others. And that they will both grow at the same time. And then before you know it, you're doing podcasts with a group of people that you never even thought you'd know in your life.
Yay, exactly. I know. And
Each other, our soul group.
It's all good.
there's no mistakes, but one of the ways that we can cultivate more love and more joy and all of that is to keep that feeling and vibration of love in our heart, to keep that laughter, that feeling of laughter and joy and togetherness and just all those good feelings, and focusing on what can we see in this situation that is good, that is pleasurable, that is happiness, there's always something. And I remember one of my mentors years ago, he said, whenever there's some kind of crisis, don't focus on the fire burning. Look for the helpers, look for who's helping and focus on that. There are people that are here that want to help, that want to be their best, that want to show up. Focus on that instead of the destruction and the disaster. What is this moment teaching us? How can I bring more joy, more helpfulness for myself and others? So thank you so much for joining us here today on Augmented Teachings. Always keep love and laughter in your heart and keep moving forward. Bye.
See ya.